TC America, powered by Skip Barber, is back for a new season beginning here this weekend at Sonoma Raceway. 3 classes of touring cars are on hand, featuring brands like BMW, Acura, Hyundai, Honda, and Mini, with race-prepared versions of their iconic showroom models. This track is 2.5 miles in 12 turns. It will challenge even the most veteran drivers in this field as the pursuit for touring car glory begins anew here today in Northern California. Hello and welcome. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. It's Amanda Busick down in the pits. Beautiful day in Northern California wine country. The green hills in the background, sheep grazing in the fields, but the bucolic setting is about to be interrupted with the roar of race engines here, Calvin, because it's about time for the first time in 2024 to go touring car racing.
So exciting. Great to be back here at Sonoma. Beautiful day. Ambient temperature approaching about 60 degrees right now. We did have some issues with the racetrack earlier in the weekend. Everyone has done an amazing job to get this track in perfect condition. Drivers are loving it. So much grip. Lap times are sensationally fast compared to previous seasons here. So let's get the season started.
So look down in the paddock. Everyone bustling with activity. In stark contrast to the last couple of days, like Calvin mentioned, a lot of the track running curtailed this weekend as the local staff was able to work on those issues around the circuit. Those have been dealt with, and we are ready to go racing here very shortly. And with just a couple of minutes before we fire engines, it gives us a chance to check in pit side with the third member of the team. That's Amanda Busick. Hi, Amanda.
Hey guys, and race one is all about new when you look at a brand new season, and that starts right here in that TCX class. You will have the Acura competing amongst the BMWs this season. And look at the front 2 rows that we have. Lucas Catania on the pole. I just talked to him about if this could be his season, and he says he thinks it might be. You'll remember he finally got that win last season after being the bridesmaid so many times. Returning to on the right-hand side, you'll see Chris Walsh. He's back after a race at VIR a couple of seasons ago. And as you will see, it is a little windy here today, whether you're looking at the flags or at my hair. We'll monitor those conditions as well. But considering the conditions that we face heading into the weekend, I keep hearing from the drivers that the track feels great out there. There are some issues of grip in a few corners, but it keeps evolving here as we get through race 1 at Sonoma.
Appreciate the update, Amanda. Thank you very much for your endeavors, as always. 3 classes of cars. TCX is the top class, and as Amanda chronicled, the new Acura Integra joining the mix this year. Last year, we did see multi-manufacturer racing within the class for the first time, but it was a short-term solution to bring a detuned Honda TCR car into the mix, knowing that Honda, through its Acura brand, was coming this year with the Integra to challenge the BMW.
Yeah, and they've come here in numbers. I mean, there's a 9-car field here, and 5 of those cars are the newer Acura Integras. So they've got off to a solid start here. They've holding down positions 3 through 5 after qualifying, but nipping at the heels, those first 3 drivers. I mean, Lucas Catania is on the pole by 1/1000th of a second over fellow BMW driver Chris Walsh, but Celso Neto making his move up to TCX. He's only half a tenth behind those 2, so it promises to be a really tight battle here between the 2 manufacturers represented there, and also we have you know, a lot of interest in the TC class as well, which is dominated in numbers at least by Hyundai.
It is, but maybe the story of the weekend has been the breakout performance from Joey Jordan and this new Mazda. I say new, we've seen it actually off and on for a few years, but it seems like that package is sorted. The pace was excellent in the lone session that set the grid for this race here. Joey Jordan starts on the outside of the front row in TC.
Yeah, that's going to be great because there's been a long period of working through the development process with that car, and it's running the iconic Mazda Motorsport colors here as well. Joey's a great young talent, and I'm hoping that all of that groundwork that's been put in by he and that team is going to come to fruition here and get a solid run.
And then 2 cars in the TCA class this year, PJ Gronke and Matty Lemke, a pair of Canadians. Let's look at this track here, Calvin. 2.5 miles, 12 turns, but what this map doesn't show is the elevation.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so challenging with the blind corners that you're going to have to try and get through here safely and quickly through the course of this 40-minute race this afternoon, and also the challenges identifying how much grip, what is the threshold, what is the peak, how hard can you push these cars through this new pavement, which just generated lap times which are just wiping lap records off the mark here. So it's going to be fun, but still teams, drivers learning, and who knows, you might go on with the setup for the beginning of the race that doesn't quite work as you get into it. But we are hearing that tire degradation is not a big factor here this weekend with this new surface.
And that is maybe more important for some of these cars than any in the paddock when you think about the front-wheel drivetrains of some of these touring cars in years past, especially here at Sonoma, where tire deg was always a big part of the conversation. The front-wheel drive cars tended to suffer more than the rear-wheel drive machines.
Yeah, absolutely. You're asking those front wheels to do a lot of work, all of the turning, all of the accelerating coming off the corners. So, but you can see a little patch there in turn 9. That was one of the areas of concern which they've addressed. So hats off to all of the SRO staff in staying the course, and certainly all of the workers here at Sonoma Raceway to get this track in great shape once again for racing. Exciting times ahead, 24 season about to begin.
2 formation laps to get ready for this race. Cool temperatures mean it's extra important to work those tires up to optimal temperature, at least as close to it, as we approach the start of the 2024 season. Starting grid for race 1 of 2024. On pole, Lucas Catania by just 1,000th of a second over former college football player Chris Walsh, who has run partial schedules in each of the past few seasons. Celso Neto, late addition to the grid here this weekend, making that jump up to the TCX class, will start third next to veteran Mike Lamara. Cooper Brohl up in the 5th spot in one of the Acura Integras, alongside Joseph Catania, father of the pole sitter. Mario Biondo, who is the team owner with the LA Honda World squad, he'll start in 7th next to Chris DeFreitas, and Aaron Kaplan starts out back, the BMW veteran, in the 9th position. To the TC class we go. Jeff Rica on pole, dominated here at Sonoma 1 season ago. Joey Jordan in that Mazda 3 starts alongside. Sally McNulty, the team car to the pole sitter, will start in 15th overall, 3rd in class, next to the Puerto Rican driver Ruben Iglesias. Christian Pericarpi in the first of 2 TC Spec Minis starts in the 5th spot, next to Chris Valdez in his 2nd season of TC class competition. Scott Thompson, the debutant, starting out back in the 2nd Mini in the TC field. Then to TCA, as mentioned, just the 2 cars here this weekend. Hopes of that growing exist for the rest of the season. PJ Gronke in a Mini, Maddie Lemke in a Honda. PJ, the veteran, a former series champion in the TCB class. Maddie Lemke just 1 pro start under her belt. That was race 1 at Indianapolis last October. That is how the field will line up. We're now moments away from going green. Always butterflies at the start of the race, Calvin, but maybe more so at the start of a new season?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone's ramped up, and the week getting to this point in the weekend has not been perfect, and everyone's been anxious and getting ready, chomping at the bit here for the first green flag of the season. Here
comes the field through turn 11. At the control of the pole sitter, looking to approach that VP acceleration zone. The Rover Pole Award winner, Lucas Catania, in the white machine in the left-hand column. He's the one at the controls now as Tom Hansing waves the green flag, and the 2024 season is underway. Quickly, a battle for the 2nd spot emerges, and very opportunistic, a move up the inside. Celso Neto able to grab it away. Catania with a big bobble, though, Cal.
Argy-bargy in the first corner of the season. Incredible stuff. A great jump there by Neto, coming off that brilliant win at the Indy finale last year in TC. Makes the move up to TCX and looking for the lead early.
Walsh was under attack, but now we check in here in the TC field, and the pole sitter, not a great giveaway, quite frankly, for Jeff Rica. That's allowed Joey Jordan to fight along the outside. Settles back in line in that Mazda 3, with Sally McNulty running a strong 3rd, right behind the top 2.
Yeah, Sally actually looked to the inside there of Jeff heading up the hill into turn 1 there and thought better of it. Just settles back in here.
And here Here are the two cars in the TCA class. The blue Mini, that's PJ Gronke. Maddie Lemke making just her second series start. And the black and green Honda runs in the second position. Battles, though, erupting in the TCX class. Chris Walsh coming under pressure. The 19 car, that's Cooper Brohl, who started 5th up to 4th. Runs wide there, though, and that allows the blue Integra of Mike Lamara to sneak through.
Color scheme on that blue car, Mike Lamara, is absolutely sensational as everyone starts to settle in here on the opening lap, side by side there into the brake zone. Catania gets a little bit defensive there. That's going to cost him speed through that turn 9A and B chicane. Celso Neto trying to set up a run here. We believe the Integra may have a little bit more straightaway speed than the BMWs, but Walsh there takes advantage of that move by Neto and gets down to the inside for turn 11.
It's been a busy opening lap for Chris Walsh, who started second, dropped back at the start, but now has grabbed that second spot back from Neto after the brief miscue. That's allowed Catania to jump away, and this one is in use. Catania leads by a half a second.
Neto looked to the inside there, but couldn't quite get the track position there to make it stick. So BMW 1-2 again, followed by a pair of Integras.
Like BMW at the point is Lucas Catania. One win on the resume, but countless podiums. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of podiums he's racked up over the last few seasons. Finally was able to break through, get that big win during the season last year, and you heard from Amanda, her report on the grid. Lucas feels like, yes, this season he might be the one to beat.
Yeah, I mean, every year it seems like Lucas Catania comes into the season thinking, I can win this championship. Then he came up against Jacob Rude a couple of years ago, then Colin Garrett last year. Finished second 6 times, Lucas Catania did, in 2023. Got that breakthrough win at Coda. He's had a really solid start to his campaign, grabbing the pole and leading early.
Drop it back through the field just to get a look at where everyone runs. You're 1.5 laps now into this race. Catania, Walsh, Neto, Lamara, Brohl, the top 5 in the TCX class. But behind them, Jeff Rica not only has the fastest lap of the race for the TC class, he's got the fastest lap of the race overall for the second year straight. That Hyundai is flying around Sonoma Raceway.
It really is. Joey Jordan settled into a nice solid second position. There you see him in that blue and white Mazda just exiting turn 7. Rica has got to be the championship favorite coming in here. So much experience. He's got this car well and truly sorted. Swept the first 4 races of the 2023 campaign, then went off to the Nürburgring to compete there and missed a whole weekend and was in catch-up mode for many months. Almost got it back. Then got into an incident in the final race weekend at Indy that cost him the title.
Still managed 8 wins and 10 podiums in that runner-up season a year ago within the championship. This is his team car, Sally McNulty, the pink and white machine, Liqui and Borla sponsorship on that car. And giving chase in the 77 is Ruben Iglesias Jr. I think we'll see more of Ruben here this season than we have in the past as he starts to gain experience.
Yeah, and these are 2 teammates now with those 2 cars, along with Jeff Rica running under the Rica Autosport banner with these Hyundais. Sally's had a really solid couple of years. Each year she comes back with a little bit more experience. She's had a few podiums now, so that's going to give her a ton of confidence. But up front, Catania leads, but Walsh is not letting him go, and the Integras are hanging tough as well.
Walsh doing a really nice job. Like I mentioned, on the grid, he's done several part-time seasons, but never put together a full campaign. Came to this later in life. He's not an old man by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not like he grew up karting or anything like that. Had a career in the military, and still does, if memory serves, in the Air Force, but longtime motorsports enthusiast. When I met him, I asked him about how he got interested in racing, and like many, he said he grew up an F1 fan. His favorite driver was Schumacher, but not Michael, Ralph Schumacher, which is not a response I get very much, I have to confess.
Yeah, and you could see there just, I think it's just the gear ratios of these two respective manufacturers running up front in the TCX class. It looks like Neto comes off some of the low-speed corners and just in the sweet spot of the torque curve of the Integra and gave Chris Walsh a little bump there as they exited turn 9 a few moments ago.
It is. This is for the final step of the podium in the TC class. Sally McNulty continues to lead her teammate Ruben Iglesias Jr. Third and fourth, but not much to separate these two in identical cars. Coming up on 7 minutes into race 1 of the season, let's check in pit side once more with Amanda.
Yeah, and once again, we see Sally McNulty as teammates to Jeff Ricca. You'll remember last year she took on that initiative of the left foot braking, and as she evolved through the season, she said ahead of this race that it's become second nature to her. So to be able to come into a race season with that skill under her belt, I expect a lot out of Sally this season.
It has been a difficult transition for a number of drivers to make over the years. You learn the habit of braking with the right foot, try to transition to the left.
Yeah.
And we've seen some illustrious names struggle with that transition. Elio Castroneves, I remember, 10, 15 years ago, elected to make that change. And it took him about half a season, by his own admission, to get comfortable with it.
Well, Sally did it with her street car as well. She runs a Hyundai on the street as well, and that just got her into the mode of every moment, every day of driving in whatever capacity, running at the grocery store. She was a left foot braker, and I think that just becomes more and more natural. I actually did it when I was doing karting. I mean, started in sprint 100cc, you were a left foot braker, then we transitioned to 250cc supercarts, where everyone was right foot braking because you had a gearbox and using a left foot for the clutch. And I went to a left foot brake setup, and that was all good until you'd seize a motor, and instinctively you always used to dip the clutch to not do damage. Well, guess what? When you dip the clutch when it's the brake,
yeah,
you had some lurid moments. So instincts do kick in, even if you've been doing it for quite some time.
Pretty good scrap between these two.
Seem pretty evenly matched. It's always an interesting dynamic when you're running against a teammate. You're kind of setting up for the weekend. You're probably eating lunch together, had a coffee this morning chatting about the race, and then you got to put your game face on and go out there and compete against each other and show each other a little respect. But you still got to be selfish. You got to go for your own result.
Back to the very front of the field, and Lucas Catania continues to lead Chris Walsh. It was less than a half a second at the line. Catania set the race's fastest lap the last time around, but only by about 0.06 of a second. That's how close those two have been over the past few laps as we dip back into this fight between the teammates, McNulty and Iglesias. And while Sally drove for this team last year and did drive a Hyundai last year, it was a different version of this car. She's now in the same car that her teammate Jeff Ricca is leading the race with.
I think that just helps the group as a whole, because you're talking about the same piece of equipment. You're feeling the same things, hopefully, if the cars are set up identically and everything is matched perfectly, rather than having a nuance of a slightly different variation of the Hyundai platform. So I think this will just allow this whole group to accelerate their learning process with this Hyundai.
And I know that group, they're the ones that developed the TC spec Hyundai. Jin Racer has been contracted to do that here stateside, and their aspiration is to have a couple more of these cars on the grid before the season is done. I think, speaking to Jeff last year, the goal was to have somewhere around 5 or 6 of the cars on the grid. 3 have materialized here in Sonoma, but still plenty of opportunity to add to that as the season progresses.
Yeah, Ruben looks pretty good into the brake zones here. Obviously, he's got a little bit of a gauge with Sally right in front of him, but right now he's not probing. He seems content just to sit there, just weighing things up. Long way to go. Just a quarter way through this 40-minute sprint race here, so he's got time on his side, and I'm sure he's going to want to be careful. As I said, that dynamic when you got your teammate right in front of you, don't take any high-risk maneuvers. He may just be trying to see if Sally has one particular corner where she may be a little bit vulnerable in, when she may be conservative or something on the brakes, and he can take advantage.
Let's look at the Jin Racer team. Great little operation. And
up there, you can see short sleeves now is appropriate for the day.
was not true just a few days ago. It was chilly.
It was really chilly. Long duration carousel turn here. This is turn 6. And then you're actually climbing uphill at this point all the way to the brake zone for turn 7.
To the front of the field, a pair of BMWs doing battle, Catania and Walsh. Then you get back to Neto, who has dropped off that fight somewhat. And Mike Lamara for LA Honda World. I'm in agreement. You mentioned the paint scheme on this car. It is gorgeous.
It really is cool with those gold wheels. Fantastic to see these new liveries and get used to them. It's a learning process for the teams and drivers, a learning process for us as well. We're trying to get our eye in and identify these cars as we see them at the opening rounds of the championship. But right now it looks like the two BMWs settled in here and gapped themselves a little bit from the Acuras.
Well, while we watch this fight for the lead, I think we have a chance to get some information from the pits and Amanda.
Yeah, Ryan, I was catching up with Rigid Speed and their crew chief, Tyler Stevenson, just on the operation and how all the communications work within the radios. Whatever they say to Lucas Catania also goes to Joe Catania, so they try to keep communications limited as well as communications from the drivers back to the team limited as well. He punctuated it as saying, no news is good news on race day.
I know a lot of these teams do that, actually. Had a little bit of some inside information, shall we say, from the mini team over the last couple of years. And I know that they all are on the same frequency too, and I think can talk to each other sometimes. I might be wrong on that second part, but they certainly are all hearing the same communications.
If the race settles in, you can talk about where you're going for dinner tonight, I guess, as a bonus. But right now, there's no dinner conversation right now because these two BMWs, Lucas Catania's got to be thinking, you know what, every year there's always someone who shows up and is going to give me a hard time for this championship, and maybe we're seeing a precursor to how things will shape up as Chris Walsh looks to the inside. Catania just sweeps across, holds his line. He wasn't quite close enough to make Lucas defend any, but it is getting tight. And the nice thing for Chris Walsh is he doesn't have to watch his rearview mirror and worry about Celso Neto. He's now dropped back a couple of seconds or so.
Walsh has been in the battles with some really top-level talent over the last couple of seasons, so this is not a new situation for him. He's been in a position where he's fought at the front of the field and won a race now at this level. So he's prepared, and you can see that, but I would say body language of the cars, Chris Walsh looks more comfortable relative to Catania at this stage of the race.
Yeah, he's feeling it. Just the language of the car looks like he can kind of put the car where he wants it, whereas Lucas is just kind of hitting his marks, floating through the circuit, whereas Chris is able to seem to be a little bit more aggressive with his inputs and make the car stick still.
Of note, last lap was an exception, but up until that point, it seemed like every lap cars were setting their fastest laps of the race. We never would have said that 10 minutes into a race at Sonoma in the past, where maybe you had 1 or 2 laps of peak tire life, but this new track surface has been a total game changer and utterly changed the conversation around how these races are going to play out.
It does, but having said that, it's still early days, do you know what I mean, in terms of learning this circuit and identifying what it would do. So maybe Lucas Catania, we talked about him feeling the heat here from Chris Walsh. Maybe he is still thinking about managing those tires a little bit, thinking about, okay, it all feels great right now. Maybe the practice sort of / qualifying session we had this morning didn't feel a lot of tire deg, but I can't afford to push it too hard and not have anything left at the end of this race for the final 5-10 minutes.
Did see on timing and scoring, it looks like Christian Pericarpi has either dropped out or did not take the start. I'm not sure which. Looks like he did not take the start. The report Amanda has is that there was some kind of an engine-related issue, and they're working on getting that fixed for tomorrow, and that's a shame. Christian finished 4th in the championship last year, 7 podiums. He's a former race winner in this category, actually in the TCA category, going back to 2022. Not a great way to get his pursuit of a championship underway. Got to be frustrating.
Sometimes our high cams here sort of like take out some of the elevation change, but from the driver's seat, It is such a roller coaster ride all the way around that first half of the circuit. Certainly, it flattens out through this part when you come down into turn 7. And then you wind up back through the S's relatively flat. Chris Walsh to the inside. He's starting to push and probe a little bit harder there.
Now, this is new for Chris. We talked about the fact that Catania has become accustomed to racing at the front of the field. In limited starts, Chris Walsh has shown good pace, but not ever been in a position to challenge for a win, and that could be changing here today. Closing in, keeping the pressure on. Still plenty of time to work with as he wears out Lucas Catania in the fight for the overall lead.
Yeah, Catania looks super smooth though, and I do question whether he is just managing things still a little bit at this stage. So Chris Walsh is probably going to be using his tires a little bit harder by pushing like he is. Lucas looks pretty content as we see the battle between the two Acuras now. Neto has a healthy gap over Lamara, and we're looking at that next gaggle of cars led by Cooper Broll.
Yeah, 5th, 6th, and 7th, all right here. Broll, Joe Catania, and Mario Biundo running nose to tail. For Broll and Biundo, this is new, stepping up to the TCX class. Catania does have some experience over the last few seasons.
Great to see Mario making the move to, oh, little spin there for Sally McNulty. Wonder if she got any help to the battle she was in last time we saw her was with Iglesias Jr., her teammates. I'm not sure she got help or just felt the pressure there and had a little moment.
Brings her back into the clutches of Chris Valdez, who is looming in the background in his Honda. It's the white car coming through the back of the shot. So that did cost Sally a position. She was in 3rd at the time and now has dropped back to 4th with 5th place hot on her heels.
And that's a big difference. I mean, podium day is a lot different to 4th. So something that you also kind of hang your hat on and have to see what happens. So we may see the aftermath of what happened here with Sally with that little moment.
Two cars were in close proximity, and a message from race control is that there's an incident under review. These are the 2 cars involved in said incident, so it's at least worth investigating as far as race control is concerned.
I would assume if that notice has come up, there may have been a report of some contact there that may have helped turn Sally. And we talked about the respect between teammates, and you never want it to go wrong. It's just so awkward when you come back to the tent and maybe have a team dinner in the evening if you got roughed up by one of your teammates, but we'll wait and see.
Ruben Iglesias, graduate of the HPD Academy, the touring car side of things, drove in TCA last year in a Civic, making the switch to Hyundai Engine Racer and the step up to TC. Speaking of TCA though, here's the leader, PJ Gronke, with his litany of sponsor stickers all over that blue Mini. One of the more gregarious personalities in the paddock, not just the touring car paddock, but in the SRO America paddock. Guy who absolutely pours his heart and soul into this race program year in and year out.
Yeah, it's not unique to have a number of partners help you make these efforts happen, but I think PJ takes it to a whole new level. We mentioned this in qualifying earlier today in that, well, that practice/qualifying session, that we were looking at the entry list and the font to go all of his partners on the entry list. You have to go down about 6 sizes on the font to even squeeze them in. But that's how he does it. You can see the car there. Just it's a wonderful, passionate effort to get this car on track each and every season, and it's great to see him having success once again.
Hails from Richmond in Ontario, north of the border. Pretty soon he'll be dealing with the overall leaders coming through in their fight for top honors. This has not let up, has it? Since the drop of the green, this has been fantastic between Lucas Catania and Chris Walsh.
I mean, he hasn't even blipped in terms of Lucas Catania so far during this race in terms of creating any opportunity or opening for Chris Walsh to take advantage of. But again, I do think he may be in a little bit of management mode here. And the longer the race goes on and he holds that position, that'll give him more and more confidence. But, you know, with Chris Walsh, does he then suddenly do something that Lucas is not expecting? Maybe just weighing him up. So it can go either way right now, but certainly we saw Chris Walsh a lot more aggressive with his inputs, able to place the car exactly where he wanted it. And Lucas is just running that classic racing line and sticking to his guns here.
Told a little bit of Chris's story earlier, but to expand on it, he was a college football and track athlete at Valparaiso University in Indiana. Now, I think, Cal, you spent some time in Valparaiso, right?
That's right. TWR were based
exactly.
there. Tom Walkinshaw Racing, when they ran the Jaguar programs, I did a little bit of testing. Unfortunately, never raced for them, but did some testing with them with their GTP cars at the time.
So that was the college career for Chris Walsh. And through his collegiate athletics, he got hooked up with the U.S. bobsled team, and actually was a national bobsledder for the USA for a number of years. As mentioned, has had a military career, and at least as of a couple years ago, I need to get this updated to make sure this is still accurate, but as of a few years ago, he told me his title was Special Tactics Officer with the U.S. Air Force, and here we go.
Drive-through penalty, incident responsibility for Iglesias here, so there obviously was contact between the two teammates, and that will give that podium spot back to Sally, I believe.
I don't think she was too far behind, so yeah, we'll have to get that confirmed. But yes, Iglesias, the drive-through penalty. And I think you are correct that that then would elevate Sally back up to third as the overall leaders have caught the leader in TCA. That's going to check up Catania. Does that leave him vulnerable to attack now?
Well, this is where he's got to be nice and neat and tidy up over that crest of the hill. If you get it wrong there, you can allow the car behind just to get on the power a little bit sooner and maybe make a move into that turn 4 brake zone that they're in right now. So Lucas is not cracked under the intense pressure that we're seeing here as we dig into the second half of this race.
The two teams involved, Rigid Speed with Lucas Catania, Karis Kaulis race team for Chris Walsh. As he pops to the outside, this is the closest he has been.
There's grip now in turn 7. He may be able to roll it around the outside. No, he loses the front end. You can see the front end just wash out there. A little bit of understeer as he's trying to look for grip. So offline there is one of the areas of the racetrack. They did have to do a lot of grinding to replace a patch there, and that's still sitting there on the edge of the road. So that will get cleaned up, but certainly pushing things there, and Lucas had to be defensive there into the brake zone, taking the inside line. Once again, he does the same thing here. This is turn 9.
Tanya able to answer the questions posed by Chris Walsh, but Walsh is closer on a consistent basis than he has ever been. Here he comes again, taking a peek up the inside, not close enough to pull alongside, however. And as we keep an eye on this battle, let's get an update on Chris Walsh with Amanda.
I was talking to their team owner, Tony Calais, about just how this whole development came together with Chris driving for him this season. He said that, as you well documented his story, that they were just as impressed with the former Air Force guy and athlete. Chris had a limited budget, but Tony said that he felt like this is something that felt right and that he had to do. On last lap pass, Chris took off about 0.2 of a second to Lucas Catania and our points leader. We'll see if he can do it now.
Well, he is close, and consistently is closer now than he was, say, 10 minutes ago. It seems like the race is coming to Chris Walsh.
Yeah, he's pushing. He just hasn't quite got close enough. I mean, he's getting a good run here off the carousel, but then Lucas, as you come off of this corner, you're on the right-hand side of the road, and Lucas can see that Walsh has got a bit of a run. And up until this point, he's elected to stay on the right-hand side of the road. Now he goes left. Chris Walsh down at the inside. Again, the grip is there. This is one area of the race where we talk about the improvement in grip everywhere, but driving through turn 7, you can really roll a lot more speed than you could in years past.
A lot of anxious faces down on the pit lane, trying to keep tabs on this battle for the overall lead.
You could see Walsh there lose the rear end of the car momentarily. Is that a sign? We talk about tire degradation and managing that. Are we getting to the point in this race with how forceful he's being? Lost the front end a little bit there as he starts to ask the car for a little bit more. And look at the gap that immediately is established by our leader.
But traffic looms ahead as the overall leaders start to approach the TC field now, including Ruben Iglesias after serving that penalty. Iglesias has now slipped back behind Valdez, behind Thompson, so he actually runs at the back of the TC field, barring Pericarpi, who was unable to take the start today and has a lot of ground to make up.
He is off Catania for the first time here today, but boy, did Walsh send it in there. Really had a very shallow approach to turn 2, but made it stick up and over the hill. He has made up that ground immediately, so I thought Lucas Catania could maybe hit his marks here and start to stretch things a bit and not have to be conservative and defensive with his lines, but Walsh has immediately got back into his mirrors.
And again, how will they deal with this traffic? Look at this. Around the outside of Lemke, that allows Walsh to close in just that little bit more. Iglesias will be the next lap car for these two to deal with.
Walsh, big run there. He's getting more and more exit speed off the carousel. Catania flashing the headlights ahead to that lap traffic.
Iglesias gives way, lets the leaders play through to the inside. That worked out well for Catania. Certainly did not impede him in any significant way.
Seems to me in the couple of moments where it's lap traffic, when he's off his ideal racing line, when Catania asked for that BMW of his to give him a little bit more front end grip, maybe he doesn't have it. Seems like Walsh can really carve the corners a little bit more aggressively.
Catania busy with those headlights, letting the traffic know the overall leader is approaching. Up next will be Thompson in the lone remaining TC Spec Mini. It's the next car up the road, making his series debut. Drove this car on different tires, admittedly. They weren't race tires, but in the famed 25 hours of Thunderhill for this Mini team over the winter to get some seat time. Club racer here on the West Coast, making his first pro start here this weekend, and he's got the overall leaders approaching.
Seems to me that Catania, with his track experience here, is running more the theoretical line that you've always had to employ here at Sonoma, but I think Walsh is kind of getting a little bit more innovative with his lines, and the track has given him the grip to get away with it, whereas in years past you'd be going for a slide, but the grip is there to explore other parts of this racetrack right now.
I had a number of drivers express that very sentiment, that previously you were pretty well locked in on the fast way around this, but with the new track surface, you can be a bit more experimental. You could try something more unconventional, and drivers have been able to find a few things that wouldn't have been available to them previously.
Yeah, and I think that really helps Chris Walsh in this situation where he's trying to explore and figure out a solution to this puzzle of how do I get the lead of this motor race.
Well, ultimately, to make a pass, you do have to go offline, right, at one point or another. Chris Walsh seems perfectly comfortable doing that. Uses more curb consistently, it seems like, in that chicane complex than Catania does.
His car seems to be really sharp in change of direction, and sometimes if you have that, you're running slightly a stiffer roll setting on the car to make it switch back quickly, and normally that will not work as well when you have to be then compliant over a bumpy section, whether it's the racetrack itself, which there aren't many bumps around this new surface here, but certainly the curbs are a consideration too in setting up the car, particularly on that second phase of the curbing there in turn 9, as you said. You'd ideally like the car to be able to eat that curb up and straighten your hands a little bit sooner.
Getting down to the wire, 10 minutes to go in the first race of this season.
Look at Walsh there, wagging the tail of that BMW up over the top. He's trying to just time it. I think he just needs to let the car float a little bit more and then surprise Catania. But again, there's not as much braking as well into some of these corners before. So whereas turn 4, you had to wheel the car down over a longer braking zone, I think these drivers are able to push in there a little bit deeper, and that just makes that window ever smaller in terms of making a pass.
In the slipstream now, we've seen him make a move to the inside, now to the outside. Chris Walsh putting the move on. Lucas Catania in the fight for the overall lead. Catania continues to cover off that inside, and even with the extra grip afforded by this new layer of asphalt around the track, just not enough speed to carry around the outside to draw even with Catania.
Yeah, Walsh is certainly trying to figure this out. He's trying to see, okay, if I take this higher, later turn into turn 7B, can that give me enough to get off the corner? But it didn't work. Catania still got good grip with his race car. Now getting into the fourth quarter of this race, it is definitely go time.
If there is an area of vulnerability, though, it looks like it's out of that turn 6 carousel into turn 7. Consistently, that is where Walsh has been the closest. But does he have anything else left up his sleeve, or has he shown his hand? Is that the move?
Well, you're right. That is the place where he seems to showcase where he's got a bit more exit speed, but I don't think he has quite enough, and certainly these tires aren't falling off in terms of grip level either to maybe create more of an opportunity for him. But he's just got to keep digging, keep probing, hoping that maybe they encounter some more traffic before the end of this race, which may give Catania a bit of a nightmare to defend this lead with.
On the last lap, these two cars ran within 5 thousandths of a second of one another and less than a second off of their personal best laps. To give you some idea of how little tire wear we're seeing here on this new surface. In previous years, we might be talking about 2 or 3 seconds difference from the start of the race to the end, but not so here anymore. Here comes Walsh, looking to the inside. Catania gives him room, and Walsh is able to slot his way past. Chris Walsh goes to the point with 7.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, Lucas just thought he had enough of a gap there, and Walsh just pushed that braking zone in. Lucas saw him coming and gave it to him. So I think he just needed to rethink that a little bit. He'd love a do-over on that one in terms of just being more defensive into that brake zone. Now the roles are reversed. What can Catania come up with here in the last 7 minutes or so?
Oh, a lot of curb and a big sideways moment there for Walsh. Will that leave him vulnerable to counterattack? Here comes Catania. Lost the lead a few corners ago. Now he's the aggressor. Pops to the outside into the hairpin of turn number 11.
Walsh is deep there, very, very deep, shallow approach, keeps it nice and tidy there, gets a good exit run off of turn 11. Nicely managed.
Inside the final 7 minutes, and the lead has changed. Chris Walsh has taken the point from Lucas Catania, and the Carrascalis team loves it.
Now, we talked about potential. Was he being stymied in terms of his lap pace by having Catania right there in front? Looks like he's escaping a little bit. I just look like there's this roll stiffness on Catania's car. When he asked for a little bit more, just seems to be a lot of roll understeer in that race car.
Starting to stretch that advantage, though, now that he is clear of the leader. Remember, these two were separated by just 1/1000th of a second in qualifying. There's been hardly anything between the two of them over the course of this weekend as we check in now with Jeff Rica, the leader in the TC class, with a hefty advantage over second place Joey Jordan. Rica making his way through the TCA traffic now.
Yeah, been a smooth day for Jeff Rica. We anticipated this. Certainly Joey Jordan's had a great run there, holding down P2 from the start of this race. Sally has recovered from her spin, still sits in P3, but it's been the Jeff Rica show so far today.
Jeff just set his fastest lap of the race the last time around. Incredible. Now, we talked about his season a year ago. Racked up the wins and the podiums, being forced to miss the 2 races at Circuit of the Americas. Likely cost him the title. Still had a chance for it late in the running.
Yeah, it's tough to have 8 wins on a championship season and not win the title, but that was set up by skipping those couple of weekends, and that was taken advantage of by his competitors.
PJ Gronke, nice solid day.
There's still space on that race car if you want to get on board with PJ.
Well, you know, quite frankly, the level of competition in TCA this year, not what it has been in the past, and between the two, PJ Gronke has years of experience, whereas Maddie Lemke has just a single start to her name. So for PJ, today was simply about keeping the nose clean, not interfering with other class battles. He's managed to do exactly that. Change for position here as Cooper Brohl puts a move on Joseph Catania coming up the hill in turn 1.
Yeah, it's a great little battle. They've dropped Mario Biondo a little bit here. He's just in the backdrop. So that was a bold move there up to the inside there. You get a lot of grip as you climb the hill up through turn 1. Squeezes through.
That'll be popular here. Cooper, a Californian, raced for the Skip Barber school team last year with a background in snow skiing and competitive snow skiing.
Look at that new best lap by Chris Walsh.
Wow.
Once he escaped the clutches there, Catania has just taken off. New best lap of 149.392, but looks like Catania's responded a little bit on this lap. He's just gone personal best sector 1, overall best sector 2. Catania's back on the attack here and closing down on the leader once again.
Incredible that the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race is still a possibility this deep into a race here at Sonoma. That would have been unthinkable in previous years, but the repave has changed all that. There'll be 2 laps to go here at the stripe for Chris Walsh, who leads the way. Lucas Catania, though, closes in. He was a half a second quicker on that last lap.
Yeah, it was a great response here by Catania, so he's still got some speed left in that BMW, but time is not on his side. Looking at a couple of laps to go here, I think, for the checkered flag.
Up the hill, now back down they go on the roller coaster ride that is a lap around Sonoma Raceway. Chris Walsh, in his first race in this championship with this team, ran a handful of GT4 races last year, has some touring car races on the resume from previous seasons, but linked up with this Karis Kallis team to do some single-make Porsche racing last year. Drove a smattering of races there. Now put this deal together to run in 2024, and what a start to the year it would be if Chris Walsh could hold on.
Yeah, they've given him a great race car. Chris has done a great job with it, but certainly the car has been really sharp here. And it'll be a big learning curve here today for these teams, getting these 40-minute races under their belts to be able to chew on the data here tonight and maybe come back a little bit stronger for race 2 tomorrow.
Well, let's look also at that fastest lap. And the CrowdStrike fastest lap goes to Chris Walsh. That's extra important because that sets the grid. The fastest lap of this race sets the grid for race 2 tomorrow. And what a different complexion this race could have had if it weren't for that 1/1000th of a second in qualifying that gave Catania the edge, that allowed him to lead the bulk of this race, forced Chris to be the aggressor. But he has made the pass, made it with about 10 minutes to go, and now the white flag will wave for Chris Walsh as he is in pursuit of his first career win in TC America.
Catania's right there, though. He has not let him go. Seems like Catania has found a little something. Maybe Chris Walsh has taught him how to get around this racetrack a little bit more effectively with his new surface, because suddenly Catania found speed there in these last 5 minutes, and he's pushing.
He's taken 7/10 off of Walsh over the last 2 laps. He is close, but running out of chances to make the move. Approaching a crucial section of this track, this carousel, the long duration turn number 6. Catania closes in. Walsh taking that inside line. Heading now towards the drag strip and the final great passing opportunity at turn 7. There'll be one more still to go at turn 11.
Are they going to catch that traffic before they finish this lap? It's going to be close. You can just see visibly, they're just rolling more speed here through that low speed section there, through turn 7 and even the chicane in turn 9. The grip is there to do it. Traffic's up ahead. Are they going to catch it before the end of this lap? Is it going to create an opportunity for Catania? Walsh defends to the inside into the brake zone for 9.
Oh, Catania a little bit wide. Will that arrest his momentum? Looks like he's been able to recover fairly well. A whole heap of traffic, though, for the overall leaders to contend with. Headed to turn 11 for the final time. They make their way around the TCA car of Matty Lemke. Chris Valdez now looms large in the windshield for Chris Walsh. He's just a couple of corners away from his first career win in TC America, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School. It took him till the final 10 minutes, but he made the move, and Chris Walsh will win to start the 2024 season in TC America, powered by Skip Barber. Lucas Catania, yet another podium in his career in this championship. We wait for Celso Neto to come by to complete the podium. In the meantime, we keep an eye here on PJ Gronke, who appears en route for a TCA class win. A little bit of a lockup as he goes deep into turn number 7, but PJ now just a few corners away from a second career win in the TCA class.
Yeah, it's tough when you don't have a ton of competition to just stay focused, but he's done a brilliant job with that today. And nonetheless, you can't detract. A win is a win, and he's had an excellent weekend so far.
And how about Jeff Rica picking up right where he left off? I mean, if you flash back to this event last year, he was in another zip code as far as the TC class was concerned. And he took full control of this race, pulling away from Joey Jordan. Jeff Rica now with just a couple of corners left to start his title pursuit off with a race win in Northern California. Here comes Jeff Rica around turn number 12 for the final time, and he takes the checkered flag first in the TC class. Joey Jordan not too far behind. What a great result that would be as Gronke takes the checkered flag first for the LAP Motorsports team. And here is the Cork Sport car, the Mazda 3. It could be a podium. Oh, but it's slowing down late in the running here.
Yeah.
McNulty's not too far behind.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's seen the flag either, has he?
No, he has not. Oh, it had been a beautiful run for this car. It looked like second place was a sure thing.
Couldn't be fuel, could it? I mean, you know, you're not necessarily going to top these cars up, and maybe you hadn't got a lot of green flag running here this weekend. You didn't get a good indication on the mileage.
McNulty has come through. Sally McNulty will take second. Great result for the Gen Racer team. It looks like, though, everyone else has taken the checkered flag, so all Joey Jordan needs to do is limp it around, take that checkered flag, and he will secure a podium, which, if nothing else, means a little bit of champagne and a trophy, but it could have been a slightly bigger trophy if not for this final
best
lap.
Result. She finished,
it is.
I don't think she's finished second before. Has she?
No.
A few times third.
That's my recollection as well. Had a pair of podiums last year, but I don't believe she has stood on that second step of the rostrum before, so she'll love that, especially considering she had to come back from a spin at one point with a little help from a teammate, let's remember, in order to get that result. But there's Chris Walsh. This will be a celebration.
Yeah, that was a great drive. Great little battle there.
It was. If that's
Lucas Catania, he's like,
I
no,
know.
this can't happen 3 years in a row.
Well, if that's a snapshot for what the season's going to look like, sign me up. That was a great battle between these two. The smiles on the face of Chris Walsh. Let's hear from him.
Oh, and the celebrations are down here by the podium. You can see the smile on Chris's face, and there was a little miscue at the front of the race, but you got right back in position and planned your attack on Lucas. Walk us through that, and then I want you to tell me about driving into the Ritter Circle for the first time.
Yeah, the start didn't quite go as planned. I kind of got caught off guard with Lucas's. I think he got checked up, and I just got checked up, and Celso did a great job and stuffed it in there. And so I was, hey, I got to settle down, hit my marks, and catch back up. And Celso made a mistake. I got past, and then I just sat behind Lucas until I found the gap and went for it. And then it was just flat out to the end. I was struggling with tires at the very end, but we did enough to get finished. This is my first professional win, so this is feels really good. The team put a lot of faith into me. Daniel Espinoza, Tony Callis at Karis Callis Racing put a lot of faith into me to come out and do well, and so I'm just happy to deliver a result for them.
Congratulations, enjoy it.
Thank you.
Fantastic finish for the Karis Callis team, and Chris Walsh repaying The confidence the team placed in him with victory to start 2024. Provisional race results, less than half a second at the front of the field. Cal, Walsh, and Catania. That's how they'll line up for race 2.
Yeah, I expect a similar battle here tomorrow because I think Catania may have learned something there by following Chris Walsh there. You know, I think he's ingrained with what he used to do here at Sonoma, and he learned something there following our winner here today. So should be a great battle here tomorrow.
In qualifying, the single lap pace for the Acura Integris was pretty close to what the BMWs, which are stalwarts of this championship, were able to post. In the race, though, maybe not quite so much. A little bit of refinement still needed there?
I think so. I think it's early days with the development of that car and getting into the sweet spot, particularly the adjustability, talking to the teams of what they can achieve with that car.
Well, we talked to our TCX winner. How about the TCA winner now?
Well, hunt for the 2024 championship starts right now for Jeff Ricka. And Calvin Fish called this the Jeff Ricka show. What do you call it?
I mean, last year we were pretty dominant, and then we're pretty dominant today. I mean, we have a car that's just so strong, so reliable, and goes the distance all 40 minutes here. And the Pirellis just maintain the entire way. So got a big shout out to Honda USA, Luca Mali. Without them, wouldn't be here this year. So more to come.
Congratulations, Jeff. And as I get over to PJ Gronke, I can't see Sally McNulty popping out of her car full of enthusiasm as she will have celebrations today. And PJ, I talked to you ahead of the race, and you were excited about this season to come and said you might be seeing us a lot more up here in the winner's circle. These achievements for you, how special are they?
Well, first of all, this is just magic, and it's great to see you again. It's been a long time, but not too long. The Mini JCW team, Mini USA, I can't thank them enough. All my sponsors, Joseph Gas, Tundra, Cabanos Cheeseburgers, Talent Net. I love everyone so much, and I wouldn't be here doing this without them, and this is where we belong.
And guys, you said that those sponsors not looking at the car, by the way. Thank you, PJ.
That is impressive, as we talked about. It is a hefty list, but that's what it takes to go racing, and that's going to be a nice celebration here tonight for the LAP Motorsports team. Highlights from the season opening race for TC America, powered by Skip Barber. Big move here from Celso Neto right off the bat to grab the second spot, away from the eventual winner, Chris Walsh. Maybe a little contact, too.
Possibly on the run up to turn 2 there. Looked like a little nudge between the two leaders.
Walsh, though, able to fight back, got up to the second spot, and that's why lurid slide that left Celso Neto vulnerable, and up the inside comes Walsh into second position where he would run for the next 30 minutes or so. Then contact between a couple of TC class teammates. Sally McNulty goes around. Her teammate Ruben Iglesias issued a drive-through penalty. Here we go. This was the battle. The gap was there. Walsh went for it and through to the lead with 10 minutes to go. Chris Walsh making the pass. Elsewhere, Joe Catania and Cooper Brohl had themselves a pretty nice duel. But all in all, at the front of the field, the win to Chris Walsh.